Hi, my name's Gracie Simon. I'm going to be presenting about talking about today about open sources. So to start off, I thought I'd go over our agenda for what exactly an open source is and some quick facts about it. Open sources versus other softwares. So how do they compare? And the history of open sources. So how they began and examples of open sources. I'll give a few of those. And then the benefits and the disadvantages that go within open sources and what the future looks like for this phenomenon. And just a conclusion of over my points of what I talked about today. All right, so to start out, I thought I'd give the definition of what exactly an open source is. And it's denoting software for which the original source code is made freely available and may be redistributed and modified. So like other softwares, most of the time you cannot access the source code. So you're not able to adjust it to the way that you like it. But with open sources, you are able to. That's what attracts many people that are in like creative fields or in a business field, so that they're able to turn into something that they prefer. All right. So the term open source in general just refers to something that people can modify and share because it's a design and it's publicly accessible to everyone. So you can just download them to your computer, and they're typically free. So a source code, which is basically what attracts many people towards open sources, is it's the code computer programmers can manipulate to change how a piece of software or a program or an application works. So that way, many people can access the source code and kind of just add features to the software that they're using to improve the way that it works. And also the open source way, which is what they call like the phenomenon of what an open source is, and it's the it's basically applying the principles of an open source software development beyond the software. And then there's many components that go into an open source. So here's just a few clarifications of what really needs to go into being an open source. It must be freely distributed. So it must be able to, it could be online and you can download it easily onto your computer. A source code should be included, and anyone must be able to modify the source code, which is what attracts a lot of people towards open sources. And modified versions of the program can be distributed, and it must not interfere with other software. So it should be able to work on different types of devices like Macs, any sort of type of computer, a Chromebook, stuff like that. Yeah, that's just a few background points of what exactly an open source is. So open sources versus other softwares. Basically, people are able to access the source code with an open source software, and most of the time, most of the time with other softwares, people are not allowed to access it. So something like Adobe Photoshop, sometimes it can be a little frustrating if you can't use it the way that you would like it to. And like going back on that, open sources grant the user to use it and distribute it however they want. And also by design, open source software licenses promote collaboration and sharing because they permit other people to make modifications to the source code, and they can incorporate those changes into their own projects, which is perfect for businesses or like anything. It's easier for them to use and kind of turn it into the way that they want their business to go. And then so here's a little bit of a history on open sources. So in the right corner is Richard Stallman, and he was a staff programmer at MIT. And so it starts out with the creation of the GNU and the advent of free software. So basically, Richard Stallman announced in 1983 the GNU project, and the goal of the project was to clone the Unix operating system to create a system that would give complete freedom to users. So he was the lead role in the trend of the free software world. Um, And then going into like the creation of the open source. So after Netscape released the source code for Mozilla in 1998, the open source became a huge thing. The free software world was something that everybody really wanted. And so the term open source was coined by Christine Peterson to describe free software. And the Open Source Institute was later founded by Bruce Perens and Eric Raymond. And after open source was created, many companies decided to invest in the free software world, and it definitely changed the game of how business worked. Um, yeah. And here's a few examples of open sources. So LibreOffice is similar to like a Word, Microsoft Word. So it's an office suite, and it's very easy to use. You can download it straight to your computer, and it's free. A lot of businesses, I know Microsoft can be hard to work with because sometimes you cannot edit things in the way that you want it to. So this way, businesses or just someone can edit things pretty much easily. And so it's a powerful and free office suite, and it has like clean interface and feature-rich tools. And it's perfect for people that want to unleash their creativity and enhance their productivity. And then another example is the GNU Image Manipulation Program, which is a cross-platform image editor. So it's very similar to Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Lightroom, and it provides like sophisticated tools to get the job done, and it's compatible with many devices, which is very important. If for open sources to be compatible with like a lot of devices, because typically people that are going to be using them are people using them for like the workplace and stuff like that. And it also has just different customizations and third-party plugins. So it's overall a really good tool, and it's typically free because Adobe Photoshop is like, I know, $10 to $15 a month, which is hard, especially if you're a college student and you can't afford to lose $15. And then so there's a few benefits of open sources. So basically they're very cost efficient, and typically open sources are within them there could be like additional costs, but most of the time free, and they're easy to download off online. They're speedy, and so open sources basically can enable your speed right away, and the programs are typically easy to work. And this way you can start on your business right away, start on something like your ideas right away and get them going. Sometimes with different programs, they can like however you want it to be. And they're also flexible ways to solve problems. So typically, instead of just like waiting for your compatibility, you can create yourself, or instead of like having to call like a hotline for help, like with Apple or something like that, you can kind of get it done yourself and fix it. You could also look it up online and how to solve things, which is typically a lot easier for people that want to get things quick and done. And information security, they have a solid security. Since I don't think you need to have an account for most of them to set up, you can just kind of download the product. And then it also has you're able to start small. So you have an option to try the various alternatives and pick the one that's going to work, and then scale up with a commercial solution. So it's a lot easier for people that want to start out in small businesses. It's a nice platform to start at and kind of work your way up. And I know it's typically free, so it's a lot easier for people and like cost efficient. Um, and then there's some disadvantages of open sources. So open sources are favorable, can be favorable to the user. So sometimes if people want to use them, like not everyone is tech savvy and know how to work their computer and know how to do coding and all of that, which can be really difficult for someone. So it's more in line with like the user that's using it rather than like the end that meets the customer. So like a customer could have difficulty using it since you are the only one that really knows how to work it, especially if you edited the source code, something like that. And then it's less user friendly. Like I said before, it could be difficult for someone who isn't computer savvy. Typically, like if someone was starting out in a business and they started doing these open sources, it could be very difficult for someone to catch up and learn how to use it. And you also rely on a community of users, which could be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing. So it's like difficult to get your problems fixed right away. So you kind of have to like look up at online forums and to see how other people solve their problems. And also external costs. Even though like open sources are like typically free, there could be additional costs within the program, and make it difficult for people that were just looking for something free, um, with something like that. And then computer bugs. So users could potentially exploit another user or program or something like that. So it's kind of easy to take credit for other things and like kind of get a bug on your computer from this type of download. It can make it a little difficult. Some computers also could not sometimes couldn't handle the software. And then the future of open sources. So open sources are just in general the future of how softwares are going to work. If you're going to make them inexpensive or free, typically a lot of people are going to start using them, and it's going to be a lot easier. And then many devices are built off the open source infrastructure, which is typically a really good thing, and it's a good investment for the future, especially for future businesses and starting out somewhere. And just kind of like a recap of what I talked about today. So open sources is a software where the source code is available and can be modified to the user's liking. So basically, you're able to edit the software. Kind of, it's hard when you're working with like Adobe or you're working with Microsoft Word. They're typically difficult to work around, and sometimes you just kind of have to take it and admit to it that it might not go in the way that you like it to. But luckily, with open sources, you're able to modify that and make it however you want. The few examples we talked about of open sources is the LibreOffice and the GNU image manipulation program, which are basically kind of like knockoffs of the Microsoft Office or like Adobe Photoshop and it's free, and you can kind of edit things the way that you want, which could be incredibly easy for like someone that's creative and kind of has their mind set on something or have something in mind, but it's hard to do off Adobe Photoshop with coding and everything. Open sources are cost efficient and they're speedy and they're flexible. You can get to use right away. You don't have to wait. You don't have to open up an account. You don't have to pay money every month. It's typically very reliable and kind of can get things done a lot quicker. And also, open sources are the future of technology. So they're going to be in a lot of businesses. In your workplace, you're going to see them a lot later with different companies. It's just the future, and it's a lot easier for people to edit things the way that they want it to. So we're going to kind of have to get used to it and how it works, because it's definitely going to be prominent in our society in the future of technology. So yeah. And well, thank you so much for listening. This is my works cited right here of all the information where I kind of where I got my information. But yeah, thank you.